Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another exciting episode of 90's horror films. And why did I pause for a second? Because for a second I saw Michael McGlynn, who's our co-host today, or a special guest today, and he's my co-host for horror film lovers. So, of course I had to ask him, but we've got also my co-host here, Maddie Deering. How you doing, Maddie?
Good, how are you?
Good. And Michael McGlynn. How are you doing?
I'm awesome, man. How y'all doing?
Right?
Great. Yes, and I'm Jonathan Moody, your host for the evening, and I had decided because there's a couple of reasons. First of all, I just bought this from Synapse and I wanted to watch it again. I hadn't seen it in years. In fact, it's almost like watching it like since I had not seen it in so long, it was almost like I mean, I remember bits and pieces of it, but I forgot like so much of this movie, and I'm very glad. It was almost like watching it again for the first time, which was nice. But it's the movie Popcorn, a movie directed by Mark Herrera. I'm gonna say that's how you say his name, and he was Billy from Porky's, and he directed this film. But he was not the first director of this film. Did you guys know that?
Oh no, who was the first director?
Did you know that, Maddie?
Aren't there I remembered seeing there were two directors, but I didn't know if there was a first or whatever. No.
Okay, so the first director was Alan Owensby, I think is how you say his name. Ormsby. Alan Ormsby. Alan Ormsby was one of Bob Clark's like go-to writers. He wrote with Bob a lot, on earlier films. I think like Children Shouldn't Play with Dead Things and Dead of Night. I don't know if did I think Bob Clark did that one. Yeah. Um, and he also wrote yeah, Children Should Have Played Dead Things. He wrote and directed a movie called Deranged, and he's done all these other films and um this was his well no, he don't think he directed Deranged, but this was his first directing gig. And it was because a company uh got together, like a new company, and they had done like theater stuff and they wanted to break out into film and they found this script for Popcorn and they wanted to make it and they reached out to Bob Clark to direct it. And Bob said no, he didn't want to direct a another horror film. His last film might have been Black Christmas. And once he did Christmas Story and Porky's, he was done with horror, directing horror. Understandably, because it's kind of hard sometimes to leave the genre, as you guys may know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think he wanted to be typecast as the horror director. I think he wanted, and sadly, his career kind of went on to doing like, I think he did like the Baby Geniuses movies and or something like that, like or something ridiculous like that. That might have
He
also
did Baby Geniuses, and I think even like the sequel or whatever.
yeah, he did Baby Geniuses and the Karate Dog. I mean, his
I
career
don't
kind of
remember the Karate Dog,
you
but I did
don't.
see Baby Geniuses in the theater,
Yeah, and he
unfortunately.
did Super Babies, Babies Geniuses too.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, his career sort of kind of went down. Now, he did do Loose Cannons, which I did not know, which was the Gene Hackman, Dan Aykroyd movie.
Yep.
I have it on VHS. I didn't realize he directed it, but it's
Yeah, I
been a
didn't
long
know either. I just saw that like on his what?
time.
The infamous fight scene. I think it was in the bar where Dan Aykroyd starts to do the acting like he's the cowardly lion. He's like, "Come on, put him up."
That's right. I haven't seen that movie in forever. I need to rewatch
I
that.
haven't either.
Um, so yeah, so he directed all these amazing movies, but he was like, nah. But he was like, I've got the perfect guy for you. So he got Alan. So they went out to Jamaica to shoot a movie, right? Because that's, I guess, I don't know, maybe they had good tax credits or something at the time.
It must
Um,
have been for this type of movie. Why?
like, why else would you do it? Because they never even use Jamaica as the like the landscape. Like you would,
No.
I had no idea I was in Jamaica until I heard a reggae band randomly in the movie.
Yeah, which I never made that connection.
Right. Because
Me
neither
neither.
did I until I looked it up and did some research on this movie.
You
Um,
just- oh.
what?
No, I was saying you. I was just thinking you might. As long as a fan I've been of this movie, I can't believe I didn't know any of that.
Yeah. So, you're gonna about to be your mind blown some more because you didn't know Alan, you knew there was two directors, but Alan got fired halfway through the movie, like, or whatever, 3 weeks into the movie. So did the lead actress, Amy O'Neill.
No, I did not know that.
Amy O'Neill from a little movie called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids was the main actress in this movie. And unfortunately, she got let go because she just wasn't working. What I heard in this like little featurette thing that they talked about was that like literally they came into Amy's room and said, "Pack up your bags. We got a plane ticket for you. You're leaving now."
Damn.
And they didn't even tell her before. They never, no warnings. Like there wasn't even any hint that this was going bad. So poor Amy. Um, so she and one of the girls from the movie, left, together, and they weren't going. Like they got, basically to say goodbye. They flew to Miami. Then the other girl flew back from Miami. I don't know why they did all that. I guess just to give her someone to be with, so that she wasn't all alone going through everything. And then flew her back on the same plane that Jill Sholin was flying in on. So, that day, and she came in that day, and she had to like they already shot 3 weeks worth of stuff. So you'll see some scenes are directed by um the original director, and then some are directed by the new director.
Oh,
You know?
okay.
Yeah.
It was
So
a good cut and a good edit. I mean, usually when you get that mesh up, you can usually see a lot of those like kind of things like, no, that's not you. Oh no, that's more you. But I mean, the story still flowed good. Like I didn't find it to be like hindrance.
I
Many-
thought so too. And the actors said that it was really hard because they had to basically get all her close-ups, and stuff and things like that. So they had to find the scenes that basically the other girl, Amy, already had shot and just reshoot them with her. And just so sometimes they bring. I was like, that is freaking crazy because like you guys have been on sets and you guys have made, produced projects, like 3 weeks into a shoot, if you think your lead actress isn't doing very well, you keep them and you
Mhm.
just figure out how to reshoot around them, try to fix the issues because casting a whole new person to come in and redo all those scenes takes more time. So,
Yeah,
you
more
know,
time on me. Fuck that.
yeah.
Oh, and the
So
money, the extra money it costs.
But I'm glad it happened. I mean, Jill was perfect. Jill did a great job. I like
Jill's my
love her.
favorite scream queen.
I know she's oh well, you love her from like what, Stepfather
I love
and
her from Popcorn, Stepfather, When a Stranger Calls Back, Cutting Class, everything she's in. She's
Cutting
uh,
Class. Oh, I love it.
a
We
great
did
movie.
so we did Cutting Class for 80s horror films, me and Rebecca Reinhardt. And we also did a little movie just recently, is sort of like I think from the last season, is we did was it Phantom of the Mall, Eric's Revenge, which
Yeah,
the Eric from Eric's Revenge plays the kind of the romantic lead, kind of characters. Kind of a douche, but kind of not. Derek
Mark.
Rydell's character. Yeah, Mark. He's
He plays the perfect like in between. He's kind of a like you said, he's kind of a douche, but you kind of gotta love him. He's kind of hilarious.
he's a lovable douche, which
Yes, he
not
really is,
many
which is hard to do.
Yeah,
It's
I was
hard
gonna
to do.
say that not many people can. Michael, I'm sorry, but I don't think. I don't know. I don't think I could find you as a lovable douche. I think I could find you as a lovable character and maybe a real like nasty douche. But I don't know if I don't
oh,
know. It's really hard to play a lovable douche.
It
Like,
is, and it's hard to write too,
uh-huh. And they did a
but
great
it
job
works.
with that. But I couldn't do that. Like I know that, because most of the time when somebody's an asshole, you you pick up on that real quick and then you're like, I don't like that person, you know. But
Mhm.
what I think that they did good was you liked him in the beginning. He seemed like a nice guy. He was maybe trying to get laid, or whatever in the beginning, but he was a nice guy and you fell for him like in a way. Like, you and then when he's with the girl, you're like, "Oh, why would you do that?" And then he goes back to her, and then he stands up to the guy who later on has a thing up his nose, you know. Which I was like, I was like, this is just a weird, wacky. It was a comedy, like it had comedic moments, and I like that. I like my horror with my comedy,
Oh,
Oh,
yeah. And I think you both are the same on that.
I
oh,
would imagine.
Mhm.
No, but it's my favorite like subgenre of a horror like is this the horror comedies like Final Girls, Tucker and Dale versus Evil, the list definitely goes on. Like even the more subtle ones, like even Gremlins. I find a lot of humor in like Gremlins or the Ghoulies or even the ones that maybe not necessarily meant to, but you can still find some humor in where you're like, yeah, maybe you weren't completely mean to be funny, but you're
You
funny.
were. You're funny.
Exactly.
Um, so yeah, so I absolutely love that. I love, like I said, I love Jill. I felt like Kelly Jo Minter, her part was very small, but I mean it was, it had a pretty good ensemble cast, so it was kind of hard to put everybody, give everybody a meaty role. But
Yeah.
I felt like Kelly Jo Minter, I just love her and almost everything she does. And so I was like, oh man, I just wish they gave her a little bit more. And maybe they did originally, and then they had to, cut around things and make things, whatever. Um, but you guys know who I'm talking about, right? Kelly Jo Minter.
She's the one that was having who was sleeping with the teacher, right?
She was I think sort of, I want to say African American girl, I think.
Oh, her, yeah, so, yeah, from summer school. God, yeah, she,
Yes.
yeah, no, that's so funny. When we were watching this, like I was actually mentioning her to my wife. I was actually telling her, I was like, you know what? It's a real darn shame. Like she had that it factor, like, and I felt like she should have been showing up in a lot more things back in the '80s and the '90s than what she was.
I
Uh,
mean, she was in. I'm gonna run down her credits real quick, and you're gonna be like, "Oh shit!" I can't. I forgot about that. She was in. Well, she was in Mask, not The Mask, but Mask, starring
With
oh, with Shay.
um, with who?
Sharon, whoever else.
Cher, and Eric Stoltz. Yep.
Yeah,
Um, and then she was in Summer School. She was in
yeah.
The Lost Boys.
Was
You
she?
know, she was Maria in The Lost Boys. Um, she was in the movie The Principal. Do you guys remember that movie?
Oh, with James Belushi or
Yes,
Jim Belushi? Or,
Jim Belushi. Yep.
love that fucking movie.
She was in A Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Child.
Yeah, I do remember her from that one and stuff.
Yeah,
But
I do too.
Oh, I'm not even kidding. Next, she was in House Party, the original House Party.
I
She
don't
was
remember
in.
her already, but I haven't
She's
seen it.
played a character named LaDonna. She was in New Jack City and Popcorn, and then two other movies that I can't believe she was in was Doc Hollywood with Michael J. Fox and The People Under the Stairs. So she had a career, like she was doing
yeah,
very well at those times.
yeah, but when you go for something like summer school, you would have thought that opened up a lot more doors for her though too. And it doesn't sound like bigger opportunities came after that, I would say.
No, and I think the biggest thing, even when she did all those movies and she ended up doing Popcorn, and Popcorn part was like a little smaller, than probably what she was used to getting. I think at that rate, she was just one of those actresses that loved to work, and would
Yeah,
constantly be in whatever she was whether it was a big part or small part, she did it. And
she just like
I feel like she should be in more. I don't know if she's even acting still, because
I was gonna say, is that all she's been in? And you guys are gonna hate
No.
me. I've never even seen Summer School, and I need to change that.
Yeah, you do for sure. Um,
It's definitely a fun watch. It's one of those ones I don't think you'll walk away disappointed or upset that you took out the time to watch it.
I've been hearing about it for a while, but yeah, that solidifies that I need to put it at the top of my list.
Yeah, I mean, I actually really do believe. I think that was the movie that really made Mark Hamill.
Yeah, I remembered seeing he was in it.
Oh yeah, no, I really think that was the movie that made him. And actually, I think it was actually the movie that kind of got Courtney Thorne Smith's career.
career going like right before Melrose. Like she
Yeah.
did that right before then, and then that just
Oh
continued
yeah,
her career.
like, I think that sequence is what really set it off, and I think that's what I was talking about with the other girl too. Like I would, because like I said, she had that it factor. I mean, she had that presence that when she had scenes, she was always like very entertaining, or she could just do that like fast talk intimidation role. But it was entertaining still. Like like I said, it's just a darn shame. I
Yeah.
would have seen her in a lot more bigger movies, or like or being given like bigger roles. I mean, I do remember her from A Nightmare on Elm Street. So I mean,
I
she did,
remember her in that one.
yeah,
So
she did a pretty good role in that one. But I mean,
well, so the last project that Kelly Jo Minter was in was in 2019. She was in a movie called Getting the Kinks Out. It's a romantic comedy about a prostitute named Daisy, played by Tuesday Night. Also
Really?
a nightmare. Now, there's a few
Yeah.
Nightmare on Elm Street people in this movie. We've also got a guy named Rodney Eastman is in it.
oh, I know.
Amanda Wiss.
Okay,
Yeah, Heather Langenkamp.
okay.
This is like a Nightmare on Elm Street reunion.
No
I don't
I
kidding.
need
know.
to watch this.
I
And it's
don't
a
know.
romantic comedy.
It's a romantic comedy about a prostitute
Watching it.
named Daisy and a plumber. This sounds like a porn. Who meet and fall in love while running from Daisy's steroid abusing pimp. So it's
Summer.
now it says that 2019, it does not have a director listed. And doesn't even look like
Oh,
it's out and available. So no user ratings or anything.
oh
Um
man,
uh
they
yeah,
buried this one.
I guess maybe it didn't do well. I wish I knew about this because I saw Tuesday at Scarefest a couple years ago, and I wish I knew this because then I would have asked her,
Yeah.
I would have asked her about it and said, hey, what's going on with this movie? Do you know? Most of the time, the actors don't know. They
No,
just
they
they know
usually
when we know.
did my job, and who knows.
So
But
maybe she did. Maybe she knew like it's never coming out. Like the director decided that it was terrible and didn't want it out.
it's
Happens.
been 5 years. I don't think
Well,
Yeah.
you never know.
you
Sometimes
never know.
movies take forever. My movies have taken a lot longer than I've wanted them to. So I get it.
Oh yeah, it happened.
You know.
Oh, yeah.
But with that being said, those were the things that like Kelly was in that, but I think that was probably because that's a nightmare reunion, thing where
Yeah.
the director, producer, writer, or whatever was big fans of the Nightmare series and decided let me cast a whole bunch of them, which is awesome. Like for independent filmmakers, that's right there, a way to get people to watch your movie.
Almost definitely.
You said, "Oh my God, that sounds wonderful. Where can I find this?" Kind of thing. So, um, now my favorite two actors in this movie, other than Jill Schoelen, were Dee Wallace being in the movie. And she was fantastic. But she's
Always been.
fantastic in everything. I've never seen a bad thing she's been, she's done herself.
Stamp of approval. During that era of horror, like if you saw Dee Wallace in it, then you knew you were in for a good horror movie. Because I mean, at that point, she had like Cujo, she had Critters, The Hills Have Eyes. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, and that's just off the top of my head. Like I know there's
Yeah.
more.
Frighteners and tons of things, but she talked about how this was her first time on a low budget indie set. Like,
Really?
you know, like a lower budget like that. Because like most of the ones she did, even The Hills Have Eyes had some good money to it, you know, or whatever, and into studio backing or whatever. Cujo did, you know, Howling did. They're all, you know, to us they're maybe still like lower budgeted, but they're not low budget, you know,
Yeah.
or whatever. And so this was the first one. So she was not used to movies shutting down for a little bit and waiting for, you know, her being stuck in, you know, in Jamaica waiting for when her scenes are going to be like. I mean, can you imagine that as an actor? I mean, you're probably still getting paid every day, you know.
Yeah, but you're not. You're yeah.
Yeah, but you're like, yeah, you're kind of wasting your time and talents on that when you could be like out searching for another job or,
He
you
doesn't
know,
really have even a huge part. I mean, yeah, she's in it, you know, but
yeah. Well,
so
I
when
mean,
I met Dee Wallace, like this was like over 10 years ago. I think at one of my first conventions, I told her Popcorn was my favorite movie of hers, and it still is. I mean, you know, whatever. I love this movie. She said that's the first time anyone has ever said that to her. And she didn't have anything popcorn related, but I always thought that was really cool
that is
because,
really cool.
oh yeah, coming from a huge fan, because I love this fucking
I
movie.
saw her at Scares That Care, and everything. And I think yeah, I think Michael, you were there. I think that's the day that
Yep.
like the time that
Too, act-
you and I actually met. But I went up to her table and I know you know I'm friends with her daughter Gabrielle. She used to be come on my podcast a few times, and I even messaged Gabrielle uh before meeting, you know, I was like, hey, I'm gonna meet your mom in a little, you know, like tomorrow or something. And she was like, tell her I said hey, you know, or whatever, you know. So I walk up and the first thing she says to me is, hello, handsome. And I was
Aw,
like, well, and I bet she says that to everybody, all the guys, whatever, you know, but like right then and there, I was like, whoa, you
oh,
know,
she was like,
like,
yeah, the nicest. I think she
yeah,
even told me like if I wanted to mail her anything popcorn related, she would autograph. But that was so long.
oh.
I think I even had the VHS or like anything.
She did an interview with Michael Rosenbaum a little while ago, and I showed it to my former roommate Jackie when I was staying up there in Bakersfield, and we watched it, and Jackie actually not just knows her or whatever from the stuff. She's gone to her house and stayed the night a few times
Yeah.
because she was really good friends with Gabrielle. That's kind of how I met Gabrielle, is through Jackie. And so they, you know, so she was watching it and she's like, "Oh my God, it's so funny because D is just D. Like, you know, no matter what interview, and even if the person doesn't really know her that well, you know, doesn't hasn't read her books, I knew her very well, and so I knew the stories that she told and stuff because I've read. She tells a lot of the stories that she's already told in her books, and I love her books and everything. So, but I don't remember popcorn being in the books. I need to go reread it and see if she
Yeah.
mentions popcorn because um the she talks about when her husband Chris died. Um and it was during the set of The Frighteners, you know, and she was away in New Zealand shooting that, and her daughter Gabrielle found you know, and it was sad, you know, such a
Oh, yeah.
sad sort of thing. And then she had to fly back, she had to leave the Frighteners, and Peter Jackson let her. Like no problem. We're gonna shut down the movie for a while, you know, until you're ready to come back, then we'll finish. And
I'm not.
no studio tells you that, you know,
No.
right? Like that just does not happen in Hollywood, and it did for her. And she got to come back, and they allowed Gabrielle to be there, so Gabrielle got to play with Michael J. Fox and all that stuff as a kid. And but she doesn't really remember it as much, you know, like it wasn't. It was like, oh, I'm hanging out with some guy named Michael, you know, like you know,
Yeah.
as a kid. But like that's freaking awesome to me. And when I read that in the book, I was just like, oh my God, it's so sad to like find your dad dead, but like all that stuff. Like they were really sweet and took care of her and everything. Peter Jackson is and still to this day is one of my favorite directors. Like he's just, and the more I hear about him, I'm like, God, I love that guy, you know?
Yeah, it
Um,
sounds like
yeah. And then there was this other guy, Tom Ballard, who unfortunately is no longer with us. He passed away in 1994 due to AIDS, so it's kind of sad. But the one who played Toby, the
Mhm.
the main guy, basically, which funniest thing is you don't really ever see Toby as anything other than just some guy just getting everything together, like,
definitely.
right? Like you don't see it coming whatsoever. I did because I saw it before and I remembered, but I also the little things you pick up on is like when he comes back into the room and he like starts saying things, the way he's talking makes him sound like the killer. Like a killer. Like he did everything. Like he was the mastermind behind things and stuff, and he was trying to manipulate people. You can see it, now that if you know he's the killer, you know?
Yeah.
But
Um,
I will say the first time watching it though, like it definitely threw me off, just because I was a fan of his work, and he's one of those ones that like if you watch a lot of his air films, like he's usually typecasted as either like the goofy one, or usually a very level goofy, or
like
like that. Yeah,
nerdy
exactly.
guy.
Well, like a good example, one of my all-time love comedies back in the day was One Crazy Summer, where he actually played brothers alongside of Bobcat Goldthwait. Um,
Oh,
Nice.
it was one of those John Cusack early '90s comedies, but he was absolutely hysterical in that one. And when I saw Popcorn, like I always just always kind of revert to. I was like, well, it can't be him. He's always just that cute, lovable, goofy guy that But when you see him in these kind of movies, you're like, oh, not him. Please don't let him get killed. Like you
Oh,
don't ever in the equation that he's the killer.
yeah, you never would have pictured him as the killer. So they did a great job. But I sent you both the I don't know if Madeline, you watched that video I sent.
I didn't get a chance to watch it. No.
Okay, so I sent a video, but Michael did, and it was My Girl, the movie My Girl, and it was I forgot he was in My Girl. He was
I
in
haven't
the
seen it since I'm dead.
yeah, he was in the poetry. Remember, Veda, Anna Kolumsky wanted to be in an adult poetry class. And so he was the guy, and I always remembered this guy, So when I saw him again in this movie, I go, he looks familiar, and his voice is familiar. Where do I know this from? So when I looked him up on IMDb, I go, My Girl, that's right. He's the weird, goofy hippie guy, who's with the hippie chick who writes this like poem and everything. And what did you say, Michael? I thought what you said was kind of funny.
Oh, oh yeah, I said I'm never gonna look at Rocky Road Ice Cream the same again.
Because the girl singing the other girl, this his girlfriend is singing this song about him, about flesh all a mesh and all this stuff, and it's all like this adult erotic stuff, and then he sings he or was it Veda does this poem about ice cream and Rocky Road and all this stuff. And he's like, flesh all a mesh or Rocky Road, they're all the same. It's all desire. And I was like, I was laughing so hard because I was like, oh man, this is the killer. Like, you can't see this. This guy's so goofy and so silly
and
that,
he and even in this one, he has those moments. Like even when you find he's like the killer, like like one of my favorite scenes from this was like when there's the whole like a veil, and he goes, and now we get this thing started. First, we sit down and we put these contacts in to cover up the fried egg eyes. The way he went about it, it's like, oh my god, this is beautiful. Like this guy just has me in stitches.
Guy is
So
nuts.
good.
Oh man, I loved it. I thought it was so funny, and he was, he was amazing in this movie. I I'm so sad he died at the age of 40 because like imagine him now like doing
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
Or
Uh,
there fun things he could have been a part of? I mean,
he could be
he's
going to the conventions. We could be meeting him, you know,
Yeah.
and
well
stuff.
loved. I
Yeah.
definitely would have been on my radar. Definitely.
Um,
Definitely.
but yeah, he was, I mean, his last stuff he did was in the Army Now, sadly. That was not a very well received movie. And honestly, it's like probably
But the
my
Pauly
least.
Shore one.
Yeah, that and Jury Duty are my least favorite Pauly Shore movies, just because I think at the time he just became this icon of like, you know, just being goofy and silly or whatever, but to the point where it just wasn't funny anymore, you know.
Exactly.
And I'm glad he kind of took a break for a while before kind of coming back into the limelight, and now he's trying to play Richard Simmons.
Yeah.
I really I don't
Look,
know.
he's kind of there. Like I could see a transformation, like with the right makeup. I could see him pulling that off.
He did a teaser, like a little
Yeah.
thing, and he showed it at Sundance and
And
stuff.
they're
Oh,
trying to convince Richard Simmons it's a good idea, right? And Richard Simmons still doesn't want it.
Yeah, Richard Simmons
Why
like,
happen?
no. I mean, can he put that in his will, like that nobody can use him? I don't think so. 'Cause I think anybody can play anybody after they're dead, right?
Probably.
Like, you know, you get
I'd feel uncomfortable watching anything if it was, against his wishes.
yeah. No, I get it. I'm saying he could do it though.
You could
Like,
go with
even
it.
if people probably wouldn't want to watch it necessarily, he could do it still.
No,
Uh,
yeah,
I wouldn't recommend it, Polly. I would recommend getting his A-OK, you know.
exactly. But
Just wait until, it's one of his last breaths is, okay, now fine, you can do it. You know?
right.
Yeah. But
saying yeah.
anyhow,
Oh, yeah, bud.
yeah. Buddy. But anyway, I love this guy, Tom Villard. Now I'm like, now I want to watch all the other stuff he's been in. He's been in a lot of other stuff, so I gotta see One Crazy Summer because I've seen Better Off Dead, and I saw One Crazy Summer on TBS. I want to say it was like one of those channels, but I saw like a commercialized cut, or whatever. So I really would like
I've
to.
never seen One Crazy Summer. I've seen Better Off Dead.
Better Off
Oh,
Dead's more of the more well-known one that they.
I only watched that maybe a year ago, and I absolutely loved it.
It's fucking.
Instant favorite. It's so
It's
fucking good.
hilarious. You
I
know.
mean,
It's so fucking good.
yeah, if you liked Better Off Dead, I think you would probably enjoy One Crazy Summer because I mean it's
I'll
an
have to watch it.
um,
It's the same director, right?
I think it is actually like, and it's got a great cast in that one too as well.
I think it's like Steve Savage Holland is his name or something like that, and or Savage Steve, something like that. One of those,
It's actually one of Demi Moore's earlier films. Like she was very young in that one. I think she was like 22 or something when she or 23 when she did that film.
Well, just don't make a joke about her being G.I. Jane. Or oh
Uh,
wait, that's not her. Never mind. Sorry. Now Michael gets it. Michael's like, um, yeah. So, anywho, yeah. So, he's what is it? He was in like Deep Space Nine, Baywatch. He had an episode of Baywatch, or two episodes, like two different characters, and that doesn't even make any sense. But because I don't think anybody could be like, who's that guy? Oh wait, and then see the other guy and go, wait, he's a different character. Like,
I just change up his hair a little bit. It's fine.
oh, but he would still be That
I know.
dude could
I
never hide. That guy could never hide who he is. I'm sorry. Like
no. Well, he can because he changes his face all the time.
well, yeah, that's true. That's true. He just puts on a new face, and oh man, that stuff was pretty awesome because I'm like, so this dude is like burned to death, like basically to death. Like, I mean, he's somehow survived. I don't know how. And they
Who
can
cares?
just and what does he do? Does he like cut people's faces off, or does he just like make fake faces? Like, I didn't understand that.
Make
I
molds of him because he's got
yeah,
that thing.
I thought he was making molds of their face. Like I think he
Yeah.
was doing kills them, but I don't think he's ripping the face off. I think he's just molding the faces when they're
Yeah.
dead.
That's
That's the way it looks.
right, though. He did do the molding before, and I totally forgot about that because it happens like, and I even wondered like, why are they doing that? Right? Like, I wondered
Yeah.
like, what does this have to do with the the festival? Like unless they're gonna have like fake faces all around or something, and then all of a sudden now it makes sense. He took everybody's mold of their face and just
Yeah.
puts it on whenever he needs to pretend to be that person, I guess. But he's very
Well,
bad at changing his voice because he tried to change his voice, I guess, with that one girl around that said, "Oh, do you think Toby loves me?" And she's like, just go away. Leave me alone. I
Yeah.
can't deal with this right now."
Well, he gets all bothered because she obviously likes him, and he's all stressed
and
out.
hard. Like he was ready to kill her until he's like, wait, what? You mean you
You love
like?
me? You love me?
Yeah. Then he starts freaking out.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, he
did he
became.
does he have anything that even works down there? Like, could he even have a girlfriend?
I
Could
mean,
he?
that's
Well,
a good question.
'Cause his whole body was burned, right? Like, I'd imagine.
well, it's like this. Is there a hot dog? Yes. Now, is it a freshly cooked one or is it a 3 a.m. I went to 7-Eleven hot dog? That leads, that's up open for debate.
I don't know. Like, because I
I'm
mean,
sorry.
none of that
I
was ever explored. What?
Oh, I was just apologizing to Madeline. I was like, if I went too far, Madeline, I'm
I
sorry.
don't think there's anything wrong with 3 a.m. hot dogs at 7-Eleven.
Oh, I had
I
uh
mean,
I'm gonna leave it at that.
I had 11:30 hot dogs at 7-Eleven, and I swear to God, I was not feeling good the day after that night. So I don't know if it was that or if I literally was just sick and it just happened to be then, but I don't know. Who knows? So yeah, I don't know. I don't see. I don't know. Did he ever have a girlfriend? I wonder. Like,
I
like
probably
Probably
did.
not.
which was his whole plan. His whole life was just to get revenge on this chick.
I
I
think
would,
so.
between that and therapy,
I don't think he
Yeah.
did therapy because I don't know. I just don't think he. I that would be an interesting like little bonus scene of
It
him
was.
and therapist, and he's like, I want to kill that bitch, and she's like, let's talk about that. Give me your let's dive deep into your emotion. Why do you want to kill this bitch?
Well, yeah. How many years had passed since that happened? I mean,
15.
probably, yeah, 15.
So
So
was she 5? She was 5. No,
well, and he was a little
she was
boy
like
too.
she must have been like 3 because she's in college, right? Or is she in high school? I thought she was in
they're in
college,
college.
right? So she's in a college class. Um, s- you
So they
know,
could be 18, 19, 20.
yeah, it was never fully explained the time and stuff, but they did say 15 years. It had been 15
Yeah, I
years
couldn't
since that
remember.
happened. So
So you'd think Toby was trying to work on whatever and then maybe gets angered when she shows up at his college or something, or did he come and find her? Who knows? Who knows?
I don't know. Okay. So the mom says at one point, "Let's not go to the thing. Let's just fly away and never like come
Let's
back
see what's
here."
going on.
I'm like, why didn't she do that to begin with?
Yeah.
Like, why did she stay in the same town, like around the same area that all this shit happened? Well, I know why, because then there would be no movie. But uh,
Exactly.
you know, like,
There's
but
that.
there could have been a movie, and they could have set it in Jamaica because it could have happened in America. All this stuff happened. She moves to Jamaica. The guy tracks her down, finds her. All this stuff happens. She brings it up, and then now she's like, "Oh God, we got to move somewhere else." You know, but no, she literally lives in the same area and everything, which I just and they did not use Jamaica to their best advantages.
I legitimately had no idea.
Yeah.
No, I would have tweaked that story. So because I would have taken the school element out of the equation if you're going to do it in Jamaica and do the setting. Because let's face it, when was the last time you heard of an aspiring film student going like, "Man, when I get done with high school, man, I'm going to go apply to Jamaica and I'm going to become a director and a writer." And like, no, it's usually they're going to New York, they're going to LA, they're going somewhere of like substance with studios. You don't usually hear people say, "I'm going to Jamaica, baby."
That's true. But I mean, I guess they didn't even use Jamaica as the actual like setting. It was supposed to
I was
be
gonna
like,
say, I don't even think it takes place in Jamaica. It was just
yeah,
filmed there.
I was
You
just
said
filmed
like
there.
Texas or something, probably.
Yeah, like
It
I
doesn't
think
make any sense. You can film that shit anywhere. All you need is a movie theater, pretty much, in a school.
Mm-hmm.
so.
That's where the movie takes place. Doesn't make
So
any sense.
so in the last 80s horror films episode, we Rebecca and I had done Blood Theater, which is also about a theater. And she
Yeah.
even said like this and Blood Theater would be a perfect sort of, double feature. But you'd have to watch Popcorn first because that's just the better movie. And then you can watch the the more lower budget, not as great movie, you know.
I mean, Blood Theater had some really good gore in it. So, I
Mm.
mean, you give it that. Popcorn, I don't. I mean, Popcorn, it falls more into that classic slasher kind of SK kills where it's more like the direct kill or the electrocution than it is
Yeah.
like trying to like highlight the gore. And there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. Not every like horror slasher has to be a gore.
I will say I was disappointed, that he died by the same thing he already killed somebody with, you know? It's
I
like,
thought that was kind of a full circle type thing.
do
Kind of
you think
enjoyed.
is that what you got from it? I
Yeah,
just
that's what I got from it.
I just got as it is like we couldn't figure out another way to do it, so we're just gonna kill him by one of his own, traps, I guess. I guess it goes to the full circle thing, but
Yeah, I mean, I thought that was cool.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I mean, you got to also bring in the factor of Mark and stuff, like the bumbling hero who can't seem to catch a break all evening, and even when he felt like he's gonna have his like his man card moment, like, yeah, here's my white knight steed moment, and even that one, I mean, did he get the job done? Yeah. Did he look graceful and heroic while doing it? Not so much.
Like George of the Jungle, as he says, which I love
Georgia.
that line.
Which wait, so there was the cartoon George of the Jungle. Was that what he was referring to? Because the Brendan
Yeah.
Fraser one didn't come out till like years later, you
Oh
know.
yeah, he was definitely talking about the cartoon.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was neat. It was funny. Like, what is she called? Like Tarzan or something? Or
Yeah,
Indiana Jones.
Indiana Jones? That's right.
He's like, yeah, more like George of the Jungle. I'm like, that's about right.
Yeah. Once again, lovable douche. Like
Yeah,
he's,
yeah, it just works so well.
yeah.
Yeah.
I was rooting for him like the whole time.
I mean, even like the date thing, it's like it was like it's not like he wanted to go off and like cheat on her. Like he was constantly going to her like, look, you keep ignoring me. It's like I'm not gonna sit around the wing forever. It's like I want to be with you, but you're not giving me any time and stuff.
But but then he
And
goes for like the easy girl.
yeah,
She's so easy. He literally leaves and there's another guy. there. Like that's like how could you get an easier person than that, you know? Like the guy's
Theory on-
got his arm around her already, and I'm like, oh my God, you
I
know?
have a bit of a theory on
The
that.
guy.
Yeah.
You have a
I
theory on that?
Yeah, I really do. Like, honestly, I don't think he really had any interest in her whatsoever. I think it was used as a jealous tactic. He knew that she was in the film club. He knew that was her big passion. There was no way he did not know about the film thing and that she was going to be a part of that. I mean, as well as even when he came back and saw like him with her, you can even tell like just in his tones and his actions, he didn't even really care at the fact that he was with her. I think he cared more than the fact like, dude, you're in my seat,
Yeah.
than he was that you're with my girl. I don't think he cared about that because then
That's true. He did say that. He said, "You're in my seat." He didn't say, "Hey, you're with my girl." You know, you're on my girl.
I think she was more of a tactic to try to get her jealous because even when she got upset, he even wanted to go and try to talk to her again. So I mean,
Yep.
I really don't. I don't think there was any like true malice in that. I think it was his way of thinking he had a good idea, and it kind of backfired on the guy
Yeah,
to the
but
point.
like,
Oh,
I don't know. Like, and I guess if he showed up alone, you know, he would look desperate and weird. You know, showing up like by himself, just with, I'll order one ticket to this big festival that you're running. You know, like if he really liked her, like he pretended like he liked her and everything, he would have said, "Hey, do you need a volunteer for your, thing? I'd help
Oh
out or
no,
something."
he's he's got a different way of thinking of things. Because again,
Mhm.
he's
yeah,
like a lovable douche. He loves Maggie. He's thinking, "Oh, this is a good way, to get her to pay attention to me."
Right.
That was the thought process.
I think Madeline absolutely nailed it. I think that is the perfect analogy for Mark. He thought it was a good idea, but then when you're us outside the box, we're more of the oh no, that's probably not the way you should be going there, buddy.
Yeah. Well, also, like, yeah, he's a completely different character than what I, as a person, would do. You know, me, I wouldn't have
Well,
done
I think
that
a
just
lot of
because,
us.
yeah, I think all of us would have not done that if we liked the girl because we wouldn't have wanted, I mean, I wouldn't want to make some, but then again, that's like, you hear all these stories, like, you see all these, like, YouTube, like, videos now and, like, advertisements, I see them all the time, of, like, you gotta treat women like shit in order to get them, and I'm gonna teach you how.
Shit.
And I'm like, no, no, bruh. Like, I can't, even if you taught me how to do it, I wouldn't be able to do it because nobody would believe me. I'm not that kind of guy,
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna pretend to be that kind of guy just to get a girl or whatever interested in me. Like, if a girl's gonna be interested in me, they're gonna be, interested in me. Mark, on the other hand, he is that kind of guy, he's like, I'm
And
gonna,
remember, this was the 90's.
right.
hmm
So yeah, well, yeah, so people did things a little bit differently and
Yeah.
stuff than they do now. Um, which I mean, if this movie was made for now, he might still do that because there are still people who would do that, So if this movie was
Yeah.
made in today, like there would be a guy who would show up. He'd probably be wearing guy liner and looking really emo, but like that's just the way that's the way kids are these days. They do not, like I don't know. They're different than the way we grew up in the 90's.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Um
I agree with you. I just definitely saw him today. I mean, even though it's not exactly the same in some ways, you all probably have seen some of these videos, like the TikTok ones when there are couples coming down the elevator, and there's some like really like attractive person coming up the airway, and they go out of their way to touch one of the partners and say something like flirty with them and stuff, just to see how the other partner reacts. Which usually most of the time it's usually like whenever it's like the cute girl or like whatever touches the guy. Usually the guy's girlfriend who's with him is usually getting the earrings off, getting ready to go right up the other side of that escalator to chase him down and stuff.
oh
Um,
my goodness. Yeah,
uh,
I there's tons of these fake like YouTube slash like TikTok videos and and my freaking reel on Facebook is filled with these like fake video segments or whatever, like a girl will be on an airplane or something and like hit on the guy, and then all of a sudden the other girl get really upset and have this huge conversation. I'm like, dude, there's only like 4 seats on this plane. Like, this is obviously
Are you
uh,
kidding?
like, yeah, it looks so fake. And I'm like, you know, and anyway, like in real life, nobody's gonna be videotaping that like that, like
I
it's
can't believe
all
anyone believes that shit.
I don't think anybody does. They're getting tired of it because it's just
Yeah.
like because it just keeps popping up on our feeds and stuff like that. And I'm just like, dudes, like, make something interesting and real, like, looking,
Yeah.
like don't try to do this shit. And so like we live in a completely different time now. Popcorn is just the perfect example of like a time capsule of the 90's, like
Mhm.
late 80's, 90's, time period. And I'm so glad it exists. Like, I'm so glad Synapse put it out, it's got where did I put it? I put the case somewhere.
The clothing
Uh,
in the aisle, you could definitely tell it's in those early like '90s, like grunge kind of stage that's on the rise and stuff. Like we're getting out of the loud clothes, the spandex, the big hair. We're getting more into like the more of what you see nowadays.
Yeah.
uh, the special edition stuff, features include, well, it says Shocko-rific special features, by the way, to go with the whole like William Castle, kind of feel to it. By the way, this felt like Matinee stole their idea, the movie Matinee.
Almost definitely.
Yeah,
uh,
No
yeah.
way.
So audio commentary with director Herrera, stars Jill Sholin, Malcolm Denaire, and special makeup effects artist Matt Falls. So, you get a little bit of that. Then Midnight Madness, the making of Popcorn, which is 57 minutes long. I didn't even finish the whole thing, so I bet there's still some more stuff I can like learn. All new
Oh,
documentary on the which includes an interview with director Herrera, stars Jill Sholin, Derek Rydell, Dee Wallace, Malcolm Denaire, Yvette Solar. And I think Yvette Solar was the one that said that she went with Amy O'Neill. Um, and Elliot Hurst. Elliot Hurst. The um, the what is it? Co-producer was Sophie Hurst, and the executive producer was Howard Hurst and some other people. And Howard Hurst and Sophie Hurst are the mother and father of Elliot Hurst, who was in the movie, who's in the like who acted in the film and stuff. So they had all, this was their project. This was the Hurst family project.
I was gonna say this is like a big Hearst family project right here.
that's
Yeah.
one.
So yeah, so it says a fascinating behind the scenes document of the troubled film production, covering everything from the replacement of the original star and director to the post production issues with the MPAA, which I've not gotten to. So I'm guessing there's some issue with the MPAA. I have the R-rated version, so I wonder if there's like an uncut version at all.
Heard there was, and I would absolutely love the final copy. Like I would actually pay a higher dollar value than you would normally afford. Like if it was like a new uncut, like unrated version of Popcorn, I would easily pay probably 120, 150 bucks for that copy if I could get it if it was on DVD or Blu-ray.
I agree. So there's also Electric Memories, an interview with actor Bruce Glover.
Ooh.
Um, a original theatrical trailer and television spots, stuff like that. Um, the screenplay was written by, did you guys notice that? Who the screenplay was written by?
I don't
Oh,
remember.
It says Todd Hackett. Now I was like, that's got to be a fake name, right? You know, and yes, that is Alan Ormsby's name, or
Oh,
like fake name that he gave. I guess after he got fired, he asked that his name be taken off, or maybe
I didn't realize that.
and he used the name Todd Hackett, and I was like, that's got to be fake because who you Hackett? Come on, you know. And it was
I didn't
Todd,
realize-
like Todd Browning, TOD. So it's like it's got to be a fake name. And I'm happy, like I'm happy that this came and that that this has such good special features and everything on it, because like you said, you had no idea it was even filmed in Jamaica. I wouldn't have known had I not, watched the thing. I think it's on IMDb that was filmed in Kingston, Jamaica, but I mean, I would not have thought about it, and everything
Yeah.
like that. So yeah,
Well,
we
the
also
hiccups
what?
is I was just saying, yeah, and like, to what we said earlier, like with all the hiccups they had and the delays and everything else, like, and the fact the movie came together the way it did, like, it's very impressive. I've seen so many other movies that have had a fraction
Yep.
of hiccups that this movie has had, and it was poorly put together. This, it's like, when you hear about all it is, like, wow, that's just the more I hear hiccups that happen behind the scenes, the more impressed I get with the film, because it was already a great film. Like, even when I watched it as a kid, I loved this film. It was a great film, and just to know that all these going on and it still came out as good as it did, that's impressive.
I always remember the VHS cover because, like, if I'm correct, it had like some kind of thing that said popcorn, and there was like some kind of like skewer or something, or whatever, and everything like that.
Bag
And
go,
what?
buy a bag, go home in a box.
Yeah, exactly. And and that's what this Blu-ray says right here.
Yeah.
There you go. You see it? Okay. Somewhat. There you go. But it's yeah, buy a bag, go home in a box, which it really, I mean, not much to do with popcorn. Apparently, the ending of the movie was gonna have to do something with popcorn. That was the reason they called it popcorn, and then they cut it or so, and it's not a part of it anymore. So you know,
Because it's a movie theater and it worked.
it worked. It didn't matter. The only thing I also wanted to mention, we forgot to mention, was Ray Walston. Ray
Yeah.
freaking Walston in the movie. Like,
There's
seriously.
approval. He's usually more on the comedy side of things. Like, when you see Ray show up like in those 80s 90s comedies, it's more likely it's going to be a fun comedy ride.
Well, I will tell you this. When they put together that festival, I was jealous. I wanted
So
to go to that festival, you know? Like, if somebody did that in my town and put like a festival like that, like an all day William Castle, show or whatever, because that's basically what they were doing. They did the
yep.
Tingler with the stuff. They did I mean Mosquito was very much, those giant you know interestingly enough, a couple years later there was a movie called the Mosquito that came out that Gary Jones directed, you know. A great movie, by the way, but I'm guessing they didn't get it from this movie. They just
Eh,
hadn't been a movie called Mosquito yet. What?
I said a movie about a giant mosquito was bound to happen regardless.
Yeah, at some point. If not, it would be now, because they've already, what is it? Brad Thomason made Waspzilla, so I mean, why not, right? We need more giant killer,
Always.
creatures, insects and shit. And like I love that the ending of that thing they showed, and he was talking about, oh, there's just more insects out there, I was like, what?
Hilarious. Everything
Yeah.
about like the fake movies, especially Mosquito, was hilarious.
Well, that guy, the director, Alan Ormsby, that's what he's credited for, because that's what he worked on the most. And that was what
Really?
slowed down the production, is he was too detail oriented. He went around and made sure everything was perfect for the shots and everything. And if
Honestly.
you watch it, it does look like a perfect, thing, but
Oh,
that slows down the movie a little bit,
yeah. The yeah.
Yeah, I mean, those aren't as. I think the producers got really upset because they're like, This is like the movie inside the movie. It's not the real movie. You need to concentrate on making the real movie. Like, uh,
But it's such a memorable part of the movie. The
that's
mosquito and the popcorn. I mean, sorry, not popcorn. The and Electric Man, whatever the name of that second movie was, I can't think right.
I can't even think either. It was, and then there was like one more
Stench
too.
really wasn't much.
With the stench and Roma Rama.
Oh, dude. Like I want those things to exist in real life. Like,
Well, this is what this movie inspired me to do, like the smell-o-vision for Spirit Animal and Splash-o-vision for Bathtub Shark Attack, because I like gimmicks because of this movie, and also because of John Waters and William Castle. But popcorn's really what solidified it. I was just like, I want my movies to be an experience instead of just you going to the movies, whatever. I want it to be an experience, and that's
exactly.
always what inspired me was this movie. So it's been a huge inspiration.
Yeah, this movie is just a lot of fun. Like, people.
I always wanted people dressing up and having fun in the theater, laughing, whatever, and you see that in this movie. They're all, I don't know, such a good
Yeah, I mean, it gets to the point where the guy's really gonna kill this chick, and everybody still thinks it's a
so
gimmick.
into.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then
And
they're like, kill her, yeah. I remember seeing people go to the front, because they want to get the front row action of it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is exactly how it really would be if somebody.
it would. People would think it's part of it.
Yeah. I remember I wrote a scene in I had an idea and I guess, somebody in Hollywood can steal this and put it for Jason. I don't give a fuck. But I had this idea for Jason Land, right? And it was like a Jason theme park, on Crystal Lake, and everything like that. And one of my favorite bits that I ever wrote, and I was so proud of this, but there was a ride called Jason's Mom, where people go, you can ride Jason's mom,
That's wonderful.
right? So, and it was a roller coaster, right? And it just went really fast, and you could go really, really fast if you push the lever. Now, I've worked at theme parks for a good while, and this is not actually how it goes. Like generally, you push one button and the whole thing starts. You can't actually make it go faster. That would actually be a bad idea. But in this thing, you can make it go faster. So they're test riding it. And they're riding the thing and it's going around and all of a sudden Jason kills the person that's running the thing and then turns it up full speed so it goes around and around and around and around really really quickly, and as the person's like going what, and you can see the blur of Jason as it's going around, right, of him walking toward the thing, and then he takes his machete and chops off the person's head, and the guy's head flies off and lands in this kid's buttered popcorn, right? And the kid screams, and scared and everything. And the father goes, "Oh no, 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 don't worry. That's just a fake head, honey. This is just all part of the show." And I don't know if I got that from popcorn or if I got that from something else or whatever, but that was my favorite thing I ever wrote in my life. I feel like I've peaked, since that because and of course, I'm never gonna get like the chance to do that because I did a stupid thing and tried to make a Jason fan film back in the day, and Crystal Lake Entertainment sent me a cease and desist letter.
Oh,
So yeah, so if you get a cease and desist letter from Crystal Lake Entertainment, I'm pretty sure that means they don't want to work with you, and stuff too, right?
That's
I
right.
would have rather
Also,
a letter saying, "Hey, come be our next director," or writer or whatever, but that no. Instead, sorry, you can't make a fan film. Nowadays you can because
nowadays, everyone's making a fucking fan film of Friday the 13th.
right, and that's because Friday the 13th is in standstill right
Limbo.
now. Yeah,
Yeah. Well,
until
they have a TV series coming out. Let's get off topic, but
maybe, I don't know. They said this like a year ago. I'm like,
I keep
where
hearing about it. I'm just like, I don't even care. I just want to see a new movie on a big screen with Jason killing people. I don't give a shit about a TV series.
I kind of do just because it actually was called Crystal Lake, which was my TV series I was trying to do,
Yeah. I mean, I'm
So
gonna watch regardless, but
I know you will.
I'd rather a movie. I I'd say I'm kind of sick of the trend of movies becoming TV shows, but Chucky did it so well.
Oh
So let's
yeah.
hope others can. Because
Yeah.
Chucky's so good.
Well,
And I would have rather watched movies, but when I started watching Chucky, I was just fucking blown away.
well,
Oh, yeah.
that's because the original creator did it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he stayed throughout the whole franchise. That's why it's one of the best franchises and most
Yeah.
consistent.
I completely agree with you. I mean, I even
Yeah.
love his mentality with it. He goes, yeah, and he goes, I had ideas about Seed of Chucky and Bride Chucky, and it's like, and I said to myself, if this franchise is gonna get buried, it's gonna be done by my own hands, not by somebody else.
So good.
Right.
So
He,
wonderful.
yeah, I met him. He's such a nice guy.
I'm sure he is. Yeah.
I met him the same day I freaking got to meet Chucky himself, Brad Dwarf.
Yeah.
Fucking dude, both of those guys are just like, I mean, all of them, like, everybody that's worked on the Chucky franchise. Alex Vincent is
I've
super
met Alex.
sweet. Yeah, Alex Vincent's super sweet. I kind of made a joke to him today because he said something about not knowing voodoo, and then somebody said, you don't know voodoo, and I said Charles Lee Ray knows voodoo. Um, but I don't know if Alex liked that or not because,
I'm
I
sure.
think he was being a serious host.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he's, all of them are super sweet and that's one of those things I wish I kind of got to meet uh the I think what's her name, the mom in it, in the original Child's
Oh,
Play.
oh, I
um
know.
My
want to say it was
tongue.
Catherine something.
Yeah.
um it's not uh because she was the mom in Seventh Heaven.
Yeah.
And I would have loved to meet her. Catherine Hicks. I would have loved to meet her, but
All
unfortunately,
I could think of was Katherine Heigl, and I'm like, that's not fucking right. But I was
no.
close.
But
Okay.
she was in a Chucky movie.
Yes,
We
she
watched
was
that. We watched that one, Maddie.
my
We,
favorite. My
yeah,
favorite.
freaking
It's
Bride of
a
Chucky.
favorite too.
What?
Oh, Brian Chuck. Yeah, I was just saying, like, as far as the franchise goes, like, I know some people are mixed on Brian Chucky. I absolutely loved Brian Chucky.
It's my favorite of the franchise. It's hilarious. I grew up with it. It was one of, I remember having the VHS, got it for Christmas when I was younger. So it's
It
my
was.
favorite time.
It was my first time watch when we did it because I don't know. I
Yeah, I
think
forgot that. Yeah.
I think I watched like the first three when I was younger, and then when Bride of Chucky came around, everybody's talking about how goofy it was, like how different in tone it was. I think I
Yeah.
Go,
had lost interest
go.
because I thought it was too
I loved
silly,
it so much.
you know. Um, but it's interesting that it got that way after Scream, you know, because if you think about it, was it Child's Play 3 had a little bit of goofiness, but it was really serious and trying to be scary. And then it hadn't done anything until after Scream came out. Then all of a sudden, it's like this jokey, silly horror thing, and then the tone shift. And I think that was just the way Hollywood was shifting, for horror films. Like everything sort of became somewhat, silly, like comedy wise and stuff. But it was the same writer to the creator, and he did such a wonderful job doing it that the comedy just worked, you know.
I
Um,
mean, a lot of times they try to expand on their character. Some, I mean, like look at Freddy Krueger. Even, I mean, like Freddy started off like as a like just like with Chucky, like a very serious slasher, but then over time they became more whimsical, more comical. To
Exactly.
to where you're like, okay, I mean, and like I said, like I mean, it's a direction I'm happy some are taking. I'm glad they're not all taking it, but I'm happy that some are.
Now, I mean, I really do think this, and I think we've all probably talked about this at some point, even if it wasn't to each other, but probably to somebody. But we need a new like iconic killer. Now we got your boy Victor Crowley, you
I'm on.
know. Um
Victor Crowley. And we need more Victor Crowley. How long's it been since the last time he was on screen? Come on, Adam Green.
feels like almost 10 years, you know.
It does. It's been a while.
I've
And
actually
then
a lot of people on there like Perry Shin, I mean one of them, and like yeah, he keeps on teasing me that just stay tuned. Adam's got something on deck.
I hope.
I'm sure he does. It's just it's sad that it takes him that long because it's not a studio film, you know?
Yeah.
If this were a studio film, they would be trying to, crank it out like, tomorrow, but it's unfortunately not.
Real
Uh
big.
Terrifier is the other, Art the Clown is the other guy, but they're not. I mean, as much as I like Victor Crowley, as much as I like Art the Clown, they're not Freddy and they're not Jason. And I don't know if we'll ever get to that point again where we have like a bunch of iconic characters that could basically, start their own like, cinematic universe, or something where they can, because remember back in the day, Jason, Kane Hodder would act in like Wishmaster with Robert England and
Mhm.
them and to Hatchet did that too occasionally. Had the actors, who have been in a bunch of different movies act and be with the thing. But they never really had like other than Freddy versus Jason, they've never really had that many crossovers, or
Wow.
whatever. And I think that's what we're kind of needing right now. We need stuff like that because that would be super awesome, like Jason, Freddy, and Michael. Like, I did have a skit once that they're all playing poker, and the only two people talking were Freddy and Chucky, like making jokes to each other, you know. But maybe I should have put Ghostface in there. Ghostface is a great example, but unfortunately, right now they got problems,
They have
and
a lot of problems.
yeah,
Uh,
I don't
there's a
know.
there's one on the rise. It's too early to say if it will be or not, but it's got a lot of potential to be a franchise, which is Thanksgiving.
I
Okay,
can see that.
I haven't seen it yet, so
It's
but
really it checks all the boxes that you would want that you would expect it. It's got that whole done element, but it is done in that Scream, My Bloody Valentine remake. I know what you did last summer, kind of style and vein. Um, but what they did differently is their kills are a lot gorier, but
okay.
they're not like
Well, it's
over.
Eli Roth, so I'm not surprised.
Exactly. But they're not over the top like stupid where you're like, oh, that's just an over exaggeration. Like, his are like they're gory, but you're also like, yeah, but yeah, okay, that could definitely be a thing. And that's so hard to watch. But I mean, it was my wife and I were really surprised, and like we both even said that this is probably Thanksgiving was probably our favorite movie of 2023.
Well, I'm worried about it because, like, yeah, in the horror, you know, universe of like us, and people like us, Thanksgiving is talked about. I don't hear anybody talking about it aside from us, and stuff. When I talk to people that are just not in the film industry, not into horror kind of thing and stuff, and I they bring up a lot of stuff. They do sometimes. Some people brought up Terrifier, and I was like, really? And that was because they made that big splash of like Terrifier 2 being on the big screen and like people like fainting in the audience and stuff like that, and having somebody had a heart attack or something in the audience, and it made some big news, and it was all over the place and stuff like that. And I mean, kind of sad that somebody has to have a heart attack before people take notice to things, but it's a horror film, like it's supposed to scare the shit out of you, or at least like gross you out, you know.
That was a big gimmick and catch up back in like the early days, like with the Exorcist. Everyone was like, "Exorcist, it's gonna freak you out." And back in that day, oh, it did. I mean, heck, even before that, even Psycho. I mean, poor Norman Bates, man. Man, that actor got so many hate mails.
Oh,
Where
really?
Oh yeah, but so many people were petrified to go and use the shower after watching Psycho, and they blamed poor Anthony for that, and they gave him hell for it.
I
And he's like,
remember seeing that in the special features.
yeah, it's like it's just chocolate syrup being poured down a drain.
Yeah, because
But back
chocolate
then,
syrup
people
looked
weren't
like that.
using that shit.
Yeah,
Just like Jaws, people were afraid of the water. I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
I was afraid of the water after Jaws. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I
like
got
the
freaked out.
bathtub.
Well, yeah, or the bathtub now for you. Like, thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna say a little plug for my movie. That's
I know. I take baths. Like I took a bath earlier, like right before the show. So now, thanks. I'm not watching your movie. I'm gonna be scared of going to the bathtub. That's one of my favorite activities. Don't
Yeah.
don't don't turn me off from it. Yeah. Just when you thought you were safe to go to the bathtub.
Nope.
not at all.
No.
Sadly, my movies are more common sense. Like, yeah, you see that guy with the mask and that bloody weapon, don't go near them.
Yeah, I mean,
A little bit more direct.
slashers are sort of like, especially in the 80s and 90s, they were very much like, cautionary tales, don't have sex, premarital sex, don't do
Yeah.
drugs, if you do all these things, this serial killer is going to come and kill you, you know. And weirdly enough, that actually happened a lot in real life too, anyway, with people. So there are fucking crazy ass people out there. So, I mean, but yeah. I to go back to the movie we were reviewing, Popcorn, um, I do love our little segues and our little, speed bumps. But I this movie, uh I think this movie, if you haven't seen this movie, people, watch it. It
Yeah.
is it is so much fun. Um, us just describing it does not do it justice. The makeup is immaculate, especially with the bird makeup and stuff. And putting on the fake faces, it just looks so cool. Like I loved it. Knowing that Bob Clark did stuff behind us makes me even love it even more.
Me too.
Um, I
I
love
already
it.
love.
And I already loved it too, but like Christmas Story, man. Oh, that's like one of my favorite movies of all time. Black Christmas was great too, the original.
Well,
Not
my
not the
favorite.
new one, not the new one.
Oh
Uh
yeah.
love you,
My,
Blumhouse, but I don't
yeah.
know
We
what
don't
you were thinking.
talk.
What are you saying, Michael?
We don't talk about that one.
Well, we did on Horror Film Lovers, was it me? No, it was Horror Film Lover Reviews. John Ward and I did, and we went off on it. Like
I haven't even watched the whole thing.
yeah, it just gets
I
worse
watched
and
like half,
worse.
and I was like, I'll finish this later, and never did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It's got to get better after this. And as Jonathan just put it, is like it doesn't.
yeah. So it in was it in Popcorn, just the movie is just so well done. As we said, even with all the issues that apparently happened in it, you never know.
You
Because
would never put it together.
yeah, so you
I
would
would
just
never know. Yeah,
yeah.
but can I talk about the one thing in this movie that bothers me?
Okay,
For
definitely.
some reason, it's that scene when Dee Wallace goes to the theater after she gets the phone call from Lanyard Gates, and like the letters on the marquee start popping off, and it says "Possessor." It's all kind of based in reality, even though it's ridiculous. But that part just seems a bit too much, and for some reason, that scene's always bothered me because I thought it was just a bit much. Wondering your guys' opinions on that.
I agree. I was like, really? Like
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense from even
it's
like
cool looking.
all of them, which is it again. It's ridiculous as it is, but that doesn't make any sense to me, and it never did, and it's always bothered me for some.
What about you, Michael? Did you agree? Do you agree that
I
that
agree. I was actually thinking because I was wondering when 976 Evil came out. Was it around that same time? I'm wondering if maybe that was them trying to get on that whole paranormal horror train, because I knew 976 Evil kind of started that whole little paranormal horror trend, especially because the original was written and directed by Robert Englund,
Yeah.
and that
So
got
yeah, 976 Evil came out in 1988. So it was a couple years before this, you know. But
kind
there've
of
been
on.
like that kind of stuff. Like, was it Shocker like out like right before this too? You know?
Yep, sure.
Yeah, Shocker was what, 1990 or something?
Yeah. So
Yeah,
like
89.
that was sort of a thing, like supernatural killer.
Yeah.
But then that's my biggest problem with this movie. Is he's not a supernatural killer.
It's
He's
not,
just
so it
he's
doesn't make
not.
any.
So that doesn't make any sense. And the other part is, isn't she dreaming about a lot of this stuff? You know?
That never really bothered me because maybe it was just like, well, I don't know. I can see
But
that.
how did the guy know about her dreams?
Yeah. So there's some things that doesn't make sense.
And why was he calling the girl and saying he was Lanyard, when he obviously wasn't? Like, was he just trying to throw everybody? Because like for us, the audience is just throwing us off. But in real life, what was his whole point? Like, I
Yeah.
mean, I don't, I honestly would have liked it better if it were just a killer, you know, just like Toby was just some crazy nut who just went off his rocker and, he wanted to make the movies become real life to him. So he did everything in the order of the way that the movies were, like electrocute the people and do the stuff like as if they were the real movie and stuff. I would have liked that, because it would actually become more like Scream, what Scream would become, because he would be like, I wanted to make the movies be real, real life, you
And
know.
I was actually wondering if that was part of the problem too, is because we now know that it had two different directors. Kind of makes you wonder: was it that one of the directors wanted to go more of a paranormal route, and the other one wanted to go more in a grounded, like killer route?
Yeah, and
And
that's
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe,
That's
because
interesting.
it would have been cooler if he was Lanyard, you know, like,
mhm,
and he was Lanyard pretending to be Toby, this
Yeah.
whole time.
yep,
Like,
trying
Yeah,
I would have bought it, you
trying to
know.
get his back. Mhm.
Yeah, I would have bought it. I would have been totally down with that. But then you're like, wait, you're some kid that died, like that didn't die, that got burned, almost died, like your mom died or
like
something. But
7 years later.
yeah, and now you're seeking your revenge now, like, and why? Like, like because it's 15 years later. And what did she have to do with it? She almost died herself.
I know. She had
I
like nothing to do with it.
I think the whole point, I
Sure,
guess,
that
was that she didn't die, originally, but his mom did. That was, that was what I got. I don't know. It was it did have some problems, but all in
But it's
all,
still a
it's
perfect movie.
still like, yeah, it's a near perfect movie. You can watch this movie. Um I don't like telling things and making them people go, um, oh man, because I did that once with Weird Science. I ruined a girl's like thing by just saying a fact about the movie. And so maybe I'm gonna ruin somebody else's thing with this because I'm gonna say it. But Mitchell or whatever, the kid from the, not who's not Anthony Michael Hall, but the other kid in the
Yeah.
movie is
Mhm.
actually 15 when they shot that movie, you know. So he was a minor who had a makeout scene with a 30-something-year-old woman. Now,
I think I read about that somewhere anyway.
and yeah, and I read about that and I thought, oh, well, I mean, and I told my friend that, and she like was like, oh my God, now I hate this movie. Because she was like, that's just gross to me and stuff. Later, this year I talked to her when she came back to visit, and I talked to her, and she said she actually has now turned back around and still loves that movie.
Good.
But it's like one of those things I didn't mean to. I was just saying a
Yeah.
fact about the movie. But
Dude, you for a lot of them. Like I actually remember one. Like it was something that I never even thought of until it came up on a TV show. It was actually on The Big Bang when they did the episode of Indiana Jones and the Lost Ark, where they pretty much where Amy pointed out that like yeah, Indiana Jones' character is absolutely pointless. And I'm like, no, he's not pointless. He goes, no, he really is. Like the Nazis still got the Ark. They still opened it. It still did everything he tried to stop and prevent still came to fruition regardless. So his role in this was pointless.
Yep.
They couldn't have it. They couldn't have a solid argument to get back to her.
I mean, technically, you can't argue that, like if Indy hadn't been there, the people still would have gone to do, they still would have got the money, they still would have got to the ground, they still would have had their faces burned off, like no matter what, he had nothing to do with anything. You know,
I
He
never
was
really thought of that.
like, yes, because he took the arc at the end and he shipped it to a warehouse. So he's a glorified UPS
yep,
shipment
that's it. That's it. That's all he did. That's so funny. Um, the other thing that I was like thinking about was, you guys ever watch that 1990s movie, My Father the Hero?
Yep.
Yeah.
You know how gross that is
Uh,
now to like look back at it?
Oh, yeah.
That movie could not be
I
made
watched it
today.
again because it was not as cringy when I watched it, and now after talking to you, John, I'm like, oh.
And it was considered adorable. It's like, oh, look at that father. He'll do anything for his daughter because he loves her so much. But it's the timing and the mentality. Like,
No,
you
it was the fact that she lied and said that he was her lover. That is so disgusting. Why would you do that? Even at 15 years old, why would you say your father is your lover? Like, and everything like that. And then he's singing songs about little girls and stuff, which was so it. I love the movie. I still love the movie. I don't know, but we did it for Hollywood Knockbusters, me and Dustin, and we were like, this is Dustin Hubbard. We were just like, this is a hard movie to rewatch, because of that. And but it has some great scenes, and Steve Miner is still one of my favorite directors.
oh
And
yeah.
so I do adore it, but it's like one of those movies when I was a kid, I loved it. I thought it was the funniest movie. I didn't even know
Yeah.
who Katherine Heigl was. I just knew that movie was great. And then I rewatched it and I go, it doesn't hold up as well as like Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead or something.
Yeah, of course.
That movie will be like I told Danielle Harris once that that was my favorite movie that she's ever been in. She said it was hers too. No, wait,
Aw.
no, no, I think it was that one. Yeah, because I love that movie. I want to say that or Last Boy Scout, but I think it was that because I didn't like Last Boy Scout as much.
It
I
must have been
think
must have been before you talked to her. When you talked to her, it must have been before she started doing the Hatchet series.
it wasn't actually, but I think
Like,
she says that. I think she says it's her favorite too to every movie that
Probably.
that she does. Yeah. So, I mean, she's not gonna go, oh yeah, I don't. Well, actually, I will tell you, there was a famous actor, I'm not gonna say who, and I'm not gonna say what it was, but a famous actor that I talked to, and I gave him a copy of a movie that I bought from Brad Twigg of Fuzzy Monkey, and I bought
oh,
a movie that was of this guy's, and I went to have him sign it, and he goes, oh man, that's the worst movie I've ever been in. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, man. And he told me this whole story. He was like, the script was great. I was so excited we got there and they completely changed everything on me,
Oh,
And I was like, fuck, that sucks. So, you
it
know,
happened. I
it
mean,
happens. And literally, I think you can walk away if that happens. You can say, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, because you can't, yeah. I mean, your contract is for that movie, or whatever. If you change things in the script and it's whatever, I think that's just terrible producing. All right, everybody. I think we talked enough about this movie and other stuff because we always go on little rants and little raves, but and with
never.
three people it goes even longer. Um
yes.
generally. So but thank you, Michael, for joining us. We really appreciate you coming out here. I don't know if we'll have a special guest next month, but it is going to be Maddie's choice.
Yes.
Do you want to tell everybody what you picked?
Yeah, I picked The Last Gasp, which I just got in Vinegar Syndrome. And I was
Nice.
like, oh, this was winning. And I think it said 95. I
It's
really don't know
95.
anything about it. Never seen it. So
Neither
I
I,
thought
but it
that
had a great cast, so I was like, all right, I'll check it out. I can't, you know.
neither one of us have seen it. So it's going to be a fun review to do. Have you seen it, Mike?
I haven't. I was like, huh, I don't think I've seen it either. I was like, I'm gonna have to put that in my list. It was the last gas.
Yep.
Yeah, Last Gasp. It's on Tubi.
Oh,
And I
okay.
got like it from the Vinegar Syndrome, subscriber sale, whatever. It was super cheap. And I was like, why not?
It's funny. She picks stuff that's on Tubi, and sometimes I do, but I didn't for this one. This was not on Tubi. I thought it was, but it was not. It was, but everybody had a copy of it, I'm guessing, you know.
I do. I own VHS and Blu-ray.
Did you, which one did you watch to rewatch this?
Blu-ray.
The Blu-ray? Okay. It looked great. On my
Watched the
4K
VHS
television.
actually, I think in October, because I watch it every October. It's one of my October watches.
What about you, Michael? What did you watch it on?
Oh,
Blu-ray?
which one?
The popcorn, the one we just did.
I watched it on DVD.
Oh, okay.
DVD.
Yeah. I would love a 4K of this. I don't know if there is one.
Oh,
Um,
again.
I know that Cutting Class just got a 4K.
Oh,
MVD.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to grab that one. Like I don't even have a copy of a Cutting Class, but I need a copy because I do actually like that movie a lot.
It's a great movie. Brad
Yep.
Pitt.
I have the
Oh,
Vinegar
head.
Syndrome one, of
Yeah.
it. And so I need the MVD, but it's always weird when another distributor distributes it in a different format,
I know.
because I'm like,
MVD releases a lot of Vinegar Syndrome stuff and like Jack Frost and whatever.
yeah, weird, right? Because like,
But
Vinegar Syndrome puts out a lot of trauma stuff, you know.
they did. I just got Redneck Zombies from them. Well, that's from a sub label, but whatever.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, that's right. Man, Ed Bishop, who worked on that and everything, keeps contacting me about. I mean, he wanted to do an interview with me and Pericles, and stuff, and I haven't we haven't set that up yet. But he was like, I love the last time me and Pericles chatted about redneck zombies, and I'm like, I'll do it again, because I love I absolutely adored redneck zombies. I need to watch it again. I need to own it. I don't think I own it on Blu-ray yet. I have it on a DVD somewhere.
I have the DVD.
My
On the
trauma version.
do for that trauma blood bank pack.
I don't have
Oh
that
man,
one. I have the regular pack, like a regular DVD of it, release of it, but they had was the blood bank pack.
Oh well, it's actually a big giant tin. I mean, it's got
that's him,
something.
man.
I think it's got like 50 or 60 trauma movies on it, but
What?
it's a mixed bag. I'll tell you, like there's some really good gems on there, and then there's a lot of those obscure ones where like like you could just tell like the lighting is just beyond horrible, where you're squinting half the time trying to see what's happening, or the audio is just so bad where you're like, oh, I'm gonna try to muster through this, but you guys are really putting my dedication to the limit.
There
Rebecca
was
and I, what?
Toxie's. Sorry, there was Toxie's Blood Bank, and there was like Toxie's Top 10, maybe. That's the one I have, and it came in a 10. His Newly Deads is in there, and Dead Dudes in the House, and some other stuff.
And a lot of
It's,
them go
uh,
to Vinegar Syndrome for Blu-ray
yep.
releases. So like, I think Dead Dudes in a House and Blood Hook and a couple of the other ones.
Other one.
We reviewed Blood Hook for 80s horror films. I'm really looking forward. For people who are listening, who are checking out the Indie Film Cafe Network, Rebecca and I will be recording on Valentine's Day. Was not expecting that, because she was like, "Oh, I can do Wednesday," and I was like, "Wednesday's Valentine's Day. Are you okay?" And she was like, "Oh yeah, I can do it, right after work, or whatever." So I guess I don't know what her and Rob are planning to do for Valentine's Day, but whatever, not my not my problem. She wants to,
Record a podcast.
yeah, and we're gonna be reviewing The Stuff. So I can't wait
Oh,
for that.
Good one.
What that
I-
is a good so we had recorded that for horror film lovers, like that was the first podcast we'd ever done, and unfortunately it got lost. It's somewhere. I don't know where it is. Like I don't know, I don't know where it went. And I'm really upset about that because it was like one of the last podcasts I did before I moved to LA, and stuff. So
oh,
like it was a big deal of like I got people together to record stuff at my house and I was so excited and we did record it, and then I don't know where it went. I don't know if it ever got on somewhere or if it's just lost, or whatever. But the point being that what is it? Uh, Rebecca, I was looking for something to do with Rebecca, and I was like, oh, I saw the stuff was on Tubi, so I thought I owned the stuff, and I don't, and I'm like fucking killing myself for that, and beating myself up because that's a classic film,
It-
one.
and I need to own it, but so anyway, I'm gonna own it, own that at some point, but I'm gonna watch it on Tubi, and we're gonna review it, and I can't wait because it's still one of those movies I can watch over and over again
That's great.
and not get bored of. So just like this movie, I could probably watch this over and over again. It doesn't feel like you need to watch it at Halloween, but you can watch it then. Or, you can watch it in the summer, you can watch it in the spring. It doesn't matter because it's
Always
timely.
good.
Yeah. So everybody go watch Popcorn, buy it from Synapse because A, it looks beautiful. I was just in awe of how it looked. And B, it's just fun. And I want to listen to the commentary too, because now I just want to dive into the Blu-ray because there's just so much cool shit in it, it sounds like. Um, so with that being said, everybody, join us next month where we're gonna be talking about The Last Gasp. And thank you, Michael. I'm sure we'll have you back on again, you know. I don't know what for yet, but I'm sure we'll find you. And you can join me and uh Michael. Michael's still got to pick one for next month for his. So, you
I
know.
do.
Yeah. I don't have a clue what he's gonna pick because it's
Uh-oh.
anything from 2000s up to uh below the 80s, down. So we've already done Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, so I don't know what else he'll plan to do, but I'm sure he'll have something fun for us. Um but until then, everybody, join us next month for a brand new episode of 90s Horror. Bye, everybody.
Bye.